WDXE.
Yes, this is the legend WDXE. And speaking of legends, Keith Durham.
Hey,
Keith Durham is in here.
well, I wouldn't say legend at all. Maybe legend in my own mind.
It is the
type
Keith
thing.
Durham Hour, brought to you by Heritage Automotive, of course.
Hey, Heritage Automotive. What do you think about that?
I like it.
I like it too. Hey, we're open 6 days a week, closed on Sunday. But
Yes.
listen, this is the time of year when vacation takes place, Jeff.
Yes.
And so there's some things you need to do. Don't be like me. Don't wait till the day before you go on vacation to get your car fixed. Because, listen, it's miserable to go on vacation and have no air conditioning, or
Right.
to know that you're going on some tires that may blow out. Because one of the most dangerous things you can do in America, believe it or not, is to change your tire on the side of the road.
I would say so.
That is super dangerous.
It always scares me to see somebody that's in that shape, and I wouldn't want to be in that shape.
No, not at all. So, before you go on vacation, get your car fixed and come into Heritage Automotive. We got a great service department there. And if you if you've already had a fender bender or need something like that, we have a great body shop there too. And of course, we have new and used vehicles also. And so we've got everything to suit your car needs at Heritage Automotive. Come see us.
It's a good feeling to drive with some confidence that your car is in good shape to take the road.
Yeah, you're right. And, I don't know about you, but I listen to my car as I drive.
Mm-hmm.
I know all the shakes and sounds and all this kind of thing. And what gets me is, and it's better now because my kids are wearing headphones and my wife or earbuds or whatever it is. So you don't have to hear whatever they're listening to. So, I have been driving down the road and my son has watching a movie or something and there's a police chase or something. I'm thinking, well, the police are behind me somewhere and I can't find them. And
Yes, one of their games.
yeah, exactly. They're playing a game or whatever.
That's right. That's
So,
right.
Anyway, today's a good day, and we want to start off today in a good way. And have you heard of a young lady named Lydia Owens?
Lydia Owens.
Lydia Owens made the news this morning, and
Okay.
and I want to talk about that for just a little bit, and because I want to use my time a little to share my faith as much
Was
as
she the speaker at her
at her high school, yeah.
Her high school.
Yeah, so rarely do I got to where I don't want to start the day off with the news because the news is always usually horrible. It's
It
all
is.
politics and it's horrible and it's division. And, I'm a patriot at heart and I want our country to be one and I want us to love each other and
Yes.
and fight for the same things that's good for humanity and things like that. And,
Yes.
and it's just tough to do that when you get up in the morning and watch the news. It's really tough.
If you really swallow all that news and then take it in, you begin to feel pretty negative.
Yeah, you're right. You're exactly right. So I'll be running for president of the United States. I'm not just kidding.
You got my vote.
There you go. Thank you. I can't
got
win
one
with one
vote anyway.
vote.
How about that?
So that was a failed attempt. And so anyway, I want to read the article that goes along with this young lady's story right here, and it was just so inspiring to start off my day. I saw this, and listen, it was usually there's some type of tragedy or mishap that gets the very first spot on the website.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was up this morning, this was it. And I thought, wow, that's pretty nice and refreshing to have a story like this. So I'll talk about Lydia Owens, and she's a South Carolina public high school class president and valedictorian. And
Yes.
she stepped out on her faith while addressing her classmates in her commencement speech. And her words of Christian belief went viral. Now, it's almost we have to think about the Christian words going viral. That's in itself that's awesome, and
That is good.
And it talks about where technology is today, but for that to be a headline to me means that most of the time it doesn't go viral.
I actually did see that headline. I just didn't remember or recognize the name, but I read the article.
Yeah, and it's a great article. So if you haven't read it, listen in right quick. I'm going to read it right quick. It says, Lydia Owens, 18, recently graduated from Woodmont High School in Piedmont, South Carolina, and she told in a recent phone interview that she found out right after Christmas she was kind of in the running for valedictorian.
Okay.
Did you ever get that call?
No, not even close.
I didn't either. So mine was you're kind of going to make it to the 11th grade or 12th grade.
The letter I got was, we think we're going to let you get out.
Exactly. So after her first semester of her senior year, it was solidified. So even in the first semester of her senior year, she knew she was going to be valedictorian. So she has some time to think about this. So I guess one of the greatest fears of being valedictorian is, hey, you got to speak to the class. Do they still do that? I haven't been to a graduation in a
Well,
while.
I haven't had the occasion to be at a graduation in quite some time.
So my daughter graduated during COVID when there was no graduation.
Yes.
And there was nothing, there was no school or anything.
Which was sad.
It was, and they put a sign out on the front lawn, which was awesome. I mean, you had to do what you had to do, and
Right.
and that was a great thought. I thought, wow, whoever thought of that was just a brilliant. And so anyway, this girl found out that she was going to be valedictorian, and so now she needed to give a speech, and so. She says she debated for a long time how to approach talking about my faith in my speech.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's awesome that because in my mind, Jeff, the generation that's coming up is, I guess the better way to put it is as more generations come, the further apart from our faith we're coming. We're as a society, I guess, would be a way to put that. And that's just my outlook on that. And I tell you, I get proven wrong on that every year.
Mm-hmm.
And because we distribute Bibles and we see these young children take these Bibles and they're very polite and they're very receiving and things like that. And so, it's just I get proven wrong on that all the time. And this story proves me wrong that, hey, there is hope coming up in this next generation. And this young girl is one of those folks. And she wants to talk about her faith in her speech. Now, think about this. If you're going to be valedictorian in your class, would it have hit you to talk about your faith?
Probably not at that age for me.
I was going to say the same thing. As I get older, my faith, I want to express my faith more the older I get.
Right.
But when I was younger, that probably was not at
Yeah.
the top of my list of sharing.
Yeah.
So, hey, come in, Charlotte. So, as we continue to read the story here, she said, I definitely always knew that I wanted to speak about my faith because my faith is who I am. So here you have an 18-year-old girl giving her valedictorian speech.
We're
We got stuff going on in
she's
the
trying to
background.
help me.
That's okay.
Keith, I just said, can you give old people classes in how to use technology?
She said, "Don't touch any buttons."
No,
just
I
turn
did
this-
not.
Just
I'm gonna tell you what.
Yeah,
I'm gonna tell you what Keith did. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Okay, no, you're fine.
Keith is a techie,
yes,
Yeah, well,
and so Keith's classes a lot of times are technology.
yes.
So I'm gonna tell you what Jeff did yesterday.
all
I
right.
said,
No, I
Keith-
did not.
I said, Keith, Jeff. I said, you see, I set it up to make it idiot proof.
Oh no.
And I said, we don't touch this side anymore. Where
Right.
it says stop streaming.
Right.
Well, yesterday he stopped streaming.
Way to go, Jeff.
And I said, you only now have to touch these one buttons on this screen. Well, Jeff stopped the streaming and then went over here and
Well, listen. I just wanted to make sure that you know how to come in and fix it.
and so
Yeah.
You know.
We like to know that there's backup here.
Yes.
And so we the good news is your voice has been going on. It's just not been your picture.
Yeah.
Oh,
We
that's
got-
okay.
We got the video on now,
That's
And
good.
So,
and I knew the video was off, but we were on audio, so we were doing good.
but yes, your voice has been streaming, just not your pretty
So-
face.
Before I continue with the story, you got to hear this. So,
Yes.
I try to start off every day as a great day, but my days already went bad a couple times already before I. So, I don't know about your shower, but my shower,
And Keith does go barefoot in the shower.
yeah,
Barefoot in the shower.
yeah.
Okay.
That's
a
maybe
good
that's
idea.
probably a song.
I hadn't thought of that.
So other than my shower having its utilitarian function of
Yes.
being a shower,
Yes.
it's also a great. It is also a great sound chamber.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and so this morning I'm in there and I'm singing some Fleetwood Mac.
There you go.
And
Wait, which song? Pretty
I don't know.
Little
Thunder
Lies?
only happens when it's raining. I don't know what the name of that song is.
That's an appropriate song for the
yeah,
shower.
exactly. So anyway, I get out of the shower and I forgot to wash my hair.
Oh
And
no.
you ever do that? And I got to get back in the shower. And so I got my hair
No,
washed. I'm glad.
it looks really nice. I was just thinking
So-
every hair's in place.
Well, I use hairspray.
My
so-
routine is hairs first, so I don't forget that.
Well, mine is that's third for me.
No, is it okay?
First is deodorant, t-shirt,
Before you
No,
take a shower?
I'm talking about shower.
Oh, shower your hairs first. Okay.
Yeah, shower hair.
Yeah,
shampoos
mine
first.
is usually, but I don't know how I got out of.
See, I don't have much hair, so it doesn't take long.
I'm the same way. That's how I know when I need a haircut is when my hair takes long to wash and dry.
Okay.
It's time
Well,
to get a haircut.
I'm gonna make a plug right quick.
Okay.
As to why, Jeff, why we quit doing it the way I showed you the other day, because now we're on the Roku app.
What's
and
that mean?
The Roku. You know what a Roku is?
Yeah, I do know what a Roku is.
Now you can hear WDXE talk on the Roku,
Oh, I
and you
like
can
that.
watch your videos that you're doing on the Roku app.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Our technology just keeps
I know.
flying.
It
So what I'm
keeps
saying is
getting
these
better.
videos that we're now streaming every morning and every
Yeah.
evening, like your show right now,
Yeah.
anybody that's got a Roku TV or a Roku box can now hear it if you download the Roku
We are
app.
multimedia.
So now that's why I was telling Jeff, that's why we no longer close our streaming service here anymore, is you can go to, and now Cloud9 Wireless here
Maybe
in
you
town.
need to get some stickies and put on the screen that says "Do not."
I did that the other day. Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to get all excited
Let me
there.
tell you about.
Did you
that's
leave
okay.
this here?
Oh, I hope not.
Okay, there's fresh daylight donuts in the kitchen
Oh, no.
that just came out of the fryer.
I don't have a break until 9.
Well, Jeff can put you one in there.
I'm just kidding.
And so, hey, I made Keith coffee yesterday and brought it in. He said I was perfect.
Yeah,
Not
it
many
was,
people accuse me of being perfect.
Yeah, it was really good coffee. It was
I
really
can bring you
blonde.
some.
I'm good today. I've already had a cup.
But anyway, so Jeff, I'm saying this. We had to make it perfect because you're going to appreciate this. I was the idiot Monday night who couldn't get the camera to keep coming up, but it was the camera's fault, not mine.
Oh.
Then
Well,
I-
nothing's ever your fault.
No, I know.
No.
It
I
is
like that.
always. Listen, 99% of the time it's my fault. So when it's y'all's fault, I have to make sure.
That's it, yeah.
Then I push my laptop back.
I'm gonna get in
listen,
trouble.
No,
Exactly.
listen. I push my laptop back right there because I keep it there to monitor everything.
Yeah.
Pushed it back. And look, see that button in the corner of the screen of the monitor?
Yes.
It turned the monitor,
Turn the
off.
monitor off.
Yeah. Hey, the most important thing, Jeff, is that you remember that you work for Charlotte.
This is yeah.
Hey,
this is-
Charlotte is
So
real
she wants to come in
good.
here and to
No,
blame me for everything.
No, and
I'm
Charlotte's
okay.
real good at saying, no, Charlotte was the idiot today, so it's
Okay.
good. Charlotte does that all the time.
All
You're
right.
just not here.
So I've been around, not since the beginning of technology, but since probably the beginning of when the PCs became more of a home element
Yeah.
than anything. And I was around back in the days before Windows. Okay, so before
Before Windows were in houses?
You had DOS.
you just had a command prompt and
Yeah.
menus that you just push buttons on. So with Windows came a unique invention, which was the mouse.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember the hardest thing to train when you say, "Hey, train Jeff to run this screen." The hardest thing to train people at the time was how to use a mouse.
Yeah.
It wasn't until Windows 95 that the right click came into being,
Mm-hmm.
and then it was a whole new game. Hey, you say, okay, right click on this, and they say, what does that mean?
Yeah.
So it's almost second nature to us
Well,
now.
I'm
Kids,
a Mac girl, so
they
everybody's
only
like-
got one button.
And look, and I'm like this,
And it's
right here.
backwards. You scroll backwards and all that kind of stuff. It's
I don't use a
unbelievable.
mouse, and they're like right click on the Mac, and I'm like, ooh, I don't have a mouse.
Oh,
How
you
do
got
I-"
a trackpad, is
And
what
I'm
that's
like,
called.
and I do. I use a trackpad.
I don't like those.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh. So then somebody comes up to me on my PC, and they're like, right click, and I'm like, I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, it means right click.
Well, I mean, I know to right click, but I'm like, oh. So anyway. All right. So Jeff, do I have you straightened so I can let Keith go back to his show?
You can.
All right.
Charlotte,
I'm
thanks
good-
for
I'm
coming
with you.
and getting us straightened out. I think it's awesome.
I'm with you.
Okay.
good to
Now
have
who's
technical
gonna
support.
go straighten me out?
I don't.
Molly is here.
Okay. Molly is my straightener outer.
Yeah, she
Straighten her
is.
outer. Thank
See
you.
ya. Thank you, Charlotte.
Thank you. Yeah, we're back like we ought to be.
So here we are back, and let's continue our talk about this young lady,
Yes.
18-year-old Lydia, who gave the commencement speech at her high school graduation, and she talked about her faith. I just think that's awesome for young people to talk about, or anybody to talk about their faith and be deliberate about it. I think that's just unbelievable. Just
Right.
be deliberate about it.
Right.
So she says, I definitely always knew that I wanted to speak about my faith because my faith is who I am. And so, you can't get stumped up in a speech talking about who you are. And if your faith is who you are, isn't that awesome? she goes on to say that it's the center of my life, so I knew that I wanted to mention it, but I didn't know how to do it. Now, Jeff, that is a hurdle that many Christians have, is how to talk about your faith.
That's an honest statement, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's unbelievable. Even today, I struggle with that, Jeff.
Yeah.
I struggle with that day by day, because I don't know about you, but there's situations that I come across every day. I know my faith. I'm confident in my faith. I believe in Christ Jesus as my Lord and Savior, and I believe it is our duty as Christians to tell others about Jesus. And I find that hard to do sometimes.
Yeah.
And I don't know why that is, but it's tough. And to have somebody that's 18 years old saying, "Hey, I knew this for a long time, but I wanted to talk to my high school." Now, listen, this is going to be. She knows everybody in the audience is going to have phones and all of her classmates and stuff like that. So she had a conversation with her friends, and she says, it wasn't until I had a conversation with some friends that she decided to say what she did. And she quotes here, "I was talking about how I was a little worried about how people would respond to me talking about my faith." And that is the number one thing I think that keeps people from talking about their faith, is how people will respond. How people will respond. Listen, if you go out and talk about your faith, and if one person responds and comes to know Christ as their Savior, what a victory that is, you know. And you don't worry about the thousands of others that may say you're an idiot or whatever.
Sure.
So anyway, this girl has a lot of courage to do this, and she was worried about what people would think about her faith. But I told my friends that I really wanted to talk more about Jesus in my speech. Owen said that her friends responded, "Well, why don't you?"
Well, why don't you?
Exactly. Sometimes the response of young folks, is just unbelievable. Why don't you do that?
Out of the mouth of babes.
Yeah, exactly. Aren't we supposed to be bold in our faith? She asked that question, or their friends asked her that question. Aren't you supposed to be bold in your faith? And when are you going to have another opportunity to speak in front of thousands of people? So here is an opportunity. And so, Jeff, that's one way I viewed this radio station, or this radio show that I've got. And sometimes we get off on things like Ted Kaczynski, and we talked about some other things. But first and foremost, and I think we talked about this. Sorry about that.
That was me.
We talked about this even before this show started, and I said, "Hey, I want to use that as an opportunity to share my faith."
Yes.
And so I know that you have a faithful audience, and from the show that you had for years. And when I say faithful, they're not just faithful to listen; they're faithful people. And
yes, I think so.
I think so too, and because I hear them call in, and I hear these things, and so I want to be able to share my faith as much too. And so this story just said, hey, you got to share this with the folks that may not have read this today. So here's a young lady, and she wanted to talk more about Jesus. And her friends asked her, so here she makes this speech. I once went home that night and she says she scratched my entire draft of what I wanted, of what I thought I wanted to talk about in my speech. She also said, and I just sat there and I prayed, and I was like, Jesus, you speak through me. Let this be exactly what you want to say, not what I want to say. Now, that sort of hits
some wisdom there.
That is some wisdom, because I don't know what curriculum you guys use in Sunday school, but in our Sunday school class, we're in the book of Jeremiah.
Okay.
And it's one thing that God told Jeremiah, hey, listen, Jeremiah says, hey, I'm a young guy, I don't know how to do this. Right. And God said, listen, I'll give you the words. You can say exactly what I tell you to say. And
which was true of the prophets.
Yeah,
true of all the prophets.
Yeah, exactly. So, this just hit home with me this morning whenever, I've got Jeremiah fresh on my mind. And let me just use this as a segue to say, if you're listening to us and maybe you're like most of society and you're searching for answers and you're not in church, I don't want to just invite you to church. I want to invite you to come to know the Lord. And if you don't have a place to go, I have a Sunday school class on Sunday mornings at 10 o'clock, and get there about 9:45, and we fellowship with each other and have a cup of coffee. And it's a pretty casual class, and it's come as you are. And we have Sunday school, and then we just have a wonderful pastor, Reggie Coleman. Reggie preaches the gospel every Sunday. Yeah. A Sunday won't pass that you won't hear the gospel of Christ. And so it's just a great, and when I go to Emmanuel Baptist Church on the end of Springer Road across from the Quick Mart, and you're welcome to come. We're not going to baptize you the first day. Listen, I know to some people, hey, going to church might be intimidating, but you know what? It's just good folks that's there. And,
right.
And and we learn together, we talk together, we share our lives together, and things like that. And so it's just and I know you do the same thing at your church.
Yeah, we do. We were Ricky Nelson was with me yesterday.
Yeah,
you know Ricky.
I do.
And of course,
Ricky Nelson or Ricky Lee?
Ricky Nelson.
Okay.
Ricky Lee, his son, of course.
Yeah. Okay.
But no, Ricky Nelson.
Okay.
Of course, he pastors a church too down in
He does.
Hollywood, and we have a kindred spirit, and you would too, with just a great conversation. We're talking about how, we sometimes as Christians say, Jesus is the answer, and he is. But that's kind of a shallow answer to a lot of people because they don't have no idea what that means.
Right.
And you cannot know Jesus without knowing his word. Now, it's one thing to say you know Jesus, but what Jesus do you know?
Yeah.
So we had that kind of conversation, and the way to learn is to get in the word, like you're talking about.
Yeah.
And prayerfully get in the word and learn.
Yeah, you're right. You're exactly right.
Yeah.
And and it's sometimes I think that might be intimidating to folks. Is that the Scripture says that when you become a Christian, you're like a babe. You're a newborn. You're a newborn creature. So the devil's going to put in your mind that, hey, to be a Christian, you've got to be learned in all these things. And no, that's not it at all. To be a Christian, you just have to realize that you're a sinner and that you need a Savior. And that you grow in Christ. After you become a Christian, you grow in Christ every day until you're called home.
It is a growth process.
It is. And so here's a young lady that, just inspired me this morning to read this story, to have an 18-year-old not just tell her friends in her little circle that about Jesus. And listen, she's not up there boasting about how great a Christian she is or anything like that. She's just telling people about Jesus. Mm-hmm. And talking to them on their level about how, you're fixing to take your next step out of high school.
Right.
And it's a big step in life. And that step is going to be only amplified when you do it through Christ. And that's just so anyway, she goes on and she added, and I truly believe that's what Jesus did. When she asked Jesus to give me the words to say, she said, I truly believe that's what he did. And I don't think those were my words. I didn't come up with that. Jesus told me what to write, that I just followed what he told me to do. In her speech, she told her classmates in part, no matter what your future holds, please remember that life is much more than how successful you are. Even if you accomplish all your dreams or none of them at all, you are still valuable and still good enough because you are made in the image of God. Owens also said in her speech, you don't have to worry about whether or not you'll be successful because God promises that his grace is sufficient for us and his power is made perfect in our weakness. Wow. I mean, that's just
pretty good stuff.
It's pretty good stuff. And so with that, I want to end her story with this. And it's a verse of scripture that goes with her story right here. 2 Corinthians chapter 12. Verse 7 through 10. So if you do your daily Bible reading, this is a good thing to read. And this is about Paul. Paul was given a thorn in the side. And do you ever feel like you got a thorn in the side, Jeff? And
well, yes.
Exactly.
I think we all do that sometimes.
Yeah, and maybe we strive to overcome it or whatever. But Paul had a thorn in his side, and here's what he says about it. And lest I should be exalted above measure by the abundance of revelations, a thorn in the flesh was given to me. And listen how he describes this. Yes. A messenger of Satan to buffet me.
Yes.
That's how he described his thorn in the flesh. And it was a messenger of Satan to buffet him. Or what it did is it reminded him of his frailties, and that and our thorns in our side should remind us of our frailties and how dependent we are on Christ. And so that's what he's saying here. And so
yes.
It was a messenger of Satan, lest I be above measure. Concerning this thing, I pleaded with the Lord 3 times that it might depart from me. And he said to me, listen to what Jesus said to him, my grace is sufficient for you,
Amen.
For my strength is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, most gladly, I would rather boast in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. Therefore, I take pleasure in infirmities, in reproaches, in needs, in persecutions, in distress for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then I am strong. And so I just, what a great verse of scripture that story led into this morning. And I think it's a good way to end her story today.
Amen.
And of course, we know that the message of Christ never ends. And so,
Good words.
If you're out there and maybe you just needed to pick me up today, read 2 Corinthians 12, 7 through 10, and understand that sometimes those obstacles in life are to make us stop and to just realize, you know what? In this world, I'm nothing. But I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Amen.
So,
a good word.
Yeah.
A very good word. And it's inspired by this young lady.
Yeah, and whenever you get up and Jeff, I purposely have not been watching the news. On purpose, I have said I want to start off the day being a great day.
Yeah.
And and I've said already that several things have gone wrong. So here's a couple things that's gone wrong, and I lead the same life that most people in our listening audience leads. So not only did I forget to wash my hair, and I had to go back in and sing the second verse of a
good song.
of a good song.
Yeah.
But when I leave, I make sure my cat isn't trapped in a room somewhere. I don't know if you ever have to do that, but
We don't have an inside cat.
oh my goodness, we have one.
Yeah.
Left.
We have a couple, but they're outside.
Okay, well, that's good. But so I can't find my cat.
Oh, no.
Where is that cat? And so usually you go in there and I can rattle the food can and she'll come dashing out and running, but she didn't. So I'm thinking, well, is the cat passed away or something? And
Where is the cat?
Anyway, it was under the dresser in my bedroom, and she was just
hadn't got up yet.
She was just sitting there. And so I thought, well, looking at me when so anyway, that I thought, well, I'm going to be late because I can't find the cat. But anyway, that's another story. But, sometimes things in our day don't go like they're going. But you know what? It's a good day. It's a great day.
Yes, it is. We're blessed to have another day. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's, we talked last week, let's switch subjects.
Sure.
For a minute. We talked last week about Ted Kaczynski and the manifesto that he wrote.
Yes.
And I'm trying not to say I watched the show the other day and I said about 8,000 times. But I don't want to. I can't help it. It's just one of my things. I want to expand on something that we talked about last week because I think it goes along with sharing our faith.
Okay.
And so, one of the first paragraphs that I read last week is this right here, and this is in paragraph 125. Let me reiterate this.
Okay.
Ted Kaczynski, number one, was a murderer. So I don't condone anything that he did, and I'm not trying to lift him up on a pedestal or anything like that. I don't suggest that you go out and read this. I'm just trying to relate a couple of things that he wrote. And talk about how society has become, and maybe give us some hope in the society that we live in,
yes.
and share a word with you. So he says here in paragraph 125 of many. I don't know how many paragraphs it's in, but he said, and I said this last week, it's not possible to make a lasting compromise between technology and freedom. All right, so think about that. Mm-hmm. It's not possible to make a lasting compromise between technology and freedom because technology is by far the more powerful social force and continually encroaches on the freedoms through repeated compromises. So that was a statement that Ted Kaczynski has made, and I want to talk about that for a little bit today and through a series of questions. So let's take our phones because that's the piece of technology that we all can pretty much relate to.
We all seem to have one.
Yeah, we do. And if we don't have a phone, we've got a computer or something like that. And if you don't have one, God bless you.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
way to go. But think about this. How has your phone compromised the way that you live? And I ask myself that question too. How has our phones in society today compromised the way we live? And I've got teenagers, and I can expand on this a little bit.
Sure.
You and I were in school, and we saw each other in the hallway, and we're talking and high-fiving, and we got conversation going on, and we wanted to talk to each other. We got together.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's right.
just coming by, and we're going to sit down and talk about things. That's the way society was. You wanted to talk about something that was face to face, eye to eye, things like that. Technology is proving to be what Ted Kaczynski says right here. It's the more powerful social force. All right, and it's more powerful in all kinds of ways. Think about this. So I have groups. I text a lot. I used to not text at all, period. And I can remember the day when people were saying, "Hey, do you get text?" And listen, I grew up and I was in IT for 30 years.
Yes.
But I didn't embrace the cell phone and apps and things like that until probably 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And people would ask me, "Hey, do you have this app on your phone?" I was like, "I don't know what that is. I don't know what an app is."
Yeah.
So I probably could have missed that. I probably could have been in that generation that skipped that technology, but I didn't.
Yeah.
And it has changed the way that I do things.
Yeah.
And there's some things that it has changed that I don't agree with. So there's some conversations that people need to have that need to be face to face. It doesn't need to be a text. And we talked about this a little bit last week because you can't express emotion through text.
It's true.
It's just impossible. And so we, as people, we have emotions, and the way that we express things and the way that we do things in conjunction with each other really lets us know, number one, if we're serious about something,
Sure.
or we can empathize or sympathize. That's almost went away, because how can you really come to the point of empathy or sympathy through a text?
Yeah.
You can see that and say, you can see a text that maybe discusses somebody's situation and saying, "Wow, that's horrible," but it's nothing like being face to face with somebody and they're describing what's going on with them, and it's a totally different conversation. Another thing, I've heard some people get fired by text. I mean, that's horrible.
That would be.
It's just not a good way to do business. It's not a good way to, but it's changed me because, I have a group of deacons at my church, and I'll just give you an example. I have a group of deacons at my church, and there's people that need prayer on a daily basis at our church, and some prayer requests will come to me through text, and I just blast them out to the group, and it's almost like, well, my responsibility after a quick prayer or whatever and a text, my responsibility for that is over. And so that's it really bothers me. That's the part of the technology, but that goes right in line with what he says here, that it's a more powerful source. You know what? It saved me 30 minutes from having to pick up the phone and calling all the deacons at church and say, "Hey, you need to, so-and-so just called me," and you can't say, "Well, they're really distraught about this," because you can't bring that through on a text.
Right. There's so much communication that we do, but it's text and email, text and emails, and tons of it. And I guess we have to have that in the business that we're in, the businesses that we're in. But by far, I find, and I think you'll agree with me, and this is where you're headed, there's no way to replace the face-to-face conversation.
That's right.
Even though we have, in a lot of ways we have replaced it, but there's just something about even like with you and here this morning, you and I sitting and talking. It's a whole lot different than it is with you just sending me a text message.
Yeah, and then you're trying to tell everybody what I'm saying.
And it's a whole different ballgame. I find that true even in transaction of business.
Yeah,
there's a better way. I mean, the communication is so much better when face to face, or at least by phone and having a real conversation, than it is just by text messaging or emails or something like that.
Yeah, so I got a good example of this, so maybe some people can relate to this too. Do you have the like when you're texting, does it sort of fill out the sentences for you, or autocorrect? I guess is a better way of putting it.
The most annoying one I've got right now is every once in a while I hit my thumb on the microphone and it just picks up everything I say and starts typing it in.
Oh yeah,
and I'm not even realizing it's happening.
And then whatever we talk about today will show up as an ad on your phone later on, and stuff like that.
Exactly.
So my nickname is Bones. I used to be skinny. I'm not anymore. I'm completely out of shape and overweight. So, but I used to be just skeleton skinny.
Bones. That's right.
You could count my ribs. And of course, I played baseball. I got that when I was in Babe Ruth, and you had to have a nickname to be on the team.
Yeah.
So I was Bones, and so everybody calls me Bones. And so here's a friend of mine that here's what texting does for you.
Yeah.
He says, "Hey Bones, call me here yet natural me, please." I'm like, "What?"
Natural me?
I mean, it's like, and then and I don't know how he got that, but he told me, he said, "Well, I just speak to my phone and it sends the text."
There
and
you
I'm
go.
like, well, that's even gotten even more convenient that you don't even have to type it anymore. You can speak it and then it gets it wrong. So,
and of course, with the hands-free now driving, if you want to call somebody and say, call so-and-so,
yeah,
and they get it wrong,
you have to say no.
they say, no, that's not who I said.
Exactly.
I'll tell you a quick story. This
Yeah.
literally happened to me in my phone. I was going to do the voice call like that. And before I would get through speaking, it would interrupt and say, I didn't quite get that. And it wouldn't even let me finish. Well, this went on about 3 or 4 times. And the last time I got frustrated, I said, shut up and let me talk. And the phone literally said, did I deserve that? Literally, it said that.
Was that Siri talking back at you?
Yes, Siri talking back at me. I fell out of the car laughing.
Well, I don't have Siri, so I carry an Android, and so I don't have Siri. So I'm not in the Siri world yet.
You got to get in the Siri world.
I'm in the cereal world, and I'm way away from that. So anyway, I wanted to read another paragraph out of this and expand on it just a little bit. We've only got a few more minutes left today, anyway. So it says. He was talking about how technology is encroaching on the freedoms of people, and I would agree. I would agree that. And let me expand on that one more time. If you think about how technology has changed the way we live our lives, think about this. When is the last time you've heard your doorbell ring at your house? Unless you DoorDash or something like that. So.
Well, honestly, we don't even have a doorbell.
Oh, okay. So there you go.
We don't have a doorbell
because you don't need them anymore. I mean, It's almost like an ashtray in a car. You used to couldn't buy a car without an ashtray, but now society has changed.
Right.
And you can't get an ashtray in a car anymore. Even though you have a hole for the 12 volt plug, there is no cigarette lighter in vehicles anymore.
That's true.
And so so Ted was saying, technology changes society.
Yes.
All right. So
it does.
We've seen
it
these.
Absolutely does.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, he says, for all these foregoing reasons, and of course we haven't read all those, and we're not going to. For all the foregoing reasons, technology is more powerful social force than the aspiration for freedom. But this statement requires an important qualification. It appears that during the next several decades, now listen, he wrote this in the 90s. It appears in the next several decades, which is what we're living in right now. It appears in the next several decades that the industrial technology system will be undergoing severe stresses due to economic and environmental problems, and especially due to problems of human behavior, alienation, rebellion, hostility, a variety of social and psychological difficulties. So let's just stop right there before we finish the paragraph.
Oh, wow.
Is he not describing the last,
the last 3 years?
Yeah, exactly.
At least.
To a T. So he, so you say, okay, are we going under severe stresses due to economic and environmental problems? The answer is yes. I mean, even in the business that I'm in the car business, Jeff, we are having problems. We used to have problems, 2 years ago, people would call up and they need a car, and we couldn't get a car because there was no chips available.
Right.
All right, so there's no technology available.
Right.
So technology prevented us from providing the customer with what they wanted. All right, so the chip problem is not a problem anymore. Now it's a people problem or a social problem, just like Ted Kaczynski said. Now we've got a social problem. Now you can't get people to drive trucks. People don't want to work. Now you can't get people to drive trucks to deliver the vehicles. I've got over 30 vehicles, cars and trucks that I've paid for that I cannot get delivered to my dealership.
That's amazing.
It is unbelievable, even to the point that now the car manufacturers will allow the dealers to go and get them. So,
and you amplify that by hundreds of dealers around
Yeah.
the country that
Yeah.
are just like you.
exactly, it's just unbelievable. And so, you know, we've been able to have some inventory on our lot because every once in a while a truck will trickle in and have one vehicle on it. But for the most part, we are sending people to the railheads, to Flint, Michigan, to St. Louis, and we're picking up vehicles and bringing them back. And you know, we're doing it ourselves because
That's amazing.
Because people don't want to work. So the human behavior that he's talking about is alienation, rebellion, hostility, a variety of social and psychological difficulties. Now, I'm telling you, that to me that describes today more than anything, especially when you think about where politics is taking you today. Now, you're it's almost like you're either on one side or the other, okay? And we'll talk. We're not going to get into to being Democrat or Republican, but there's a psychological effect in society today that puts you on one side or the other. Okay,
Yeah, that's true.
So there's a psychological battle that's going on there. No longer are we fighting for the good of humanity. We're fighting for face more than anything else, and it's unbelievable. We're fighting for our own, I guess. To promote ourselves more than anything else. So if I look at the people in Washington D.C., they don't care what's going on in Tennessee. What they care about is the people down the hall that are getting together and going to vote against what, you know. It's just
For those of us, I guess, and this is just I'll throw this out for thought, but you know, you and I are on the conservative side of things.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're on the conservative side of things, and
Yeah.
there's just no secret about that.
and you know what puts
I
me there,
think-
Jeff, is my faith puts me
Yeah,
there.
our faith puts us there. I believe puts us there. The fact that we have what we believe to be the truth.
Yeah,
And I feel, and I think a lot of other folks in our neck of the woods feel invaded and taken over by destructive forces,
I agree.
big time.
Yeah,
And so when you say fighting, I guess we are in a way, because you feel like you kind of have to.
yeah, you're exactly right. But what battle are we fighting, Jeff? Are we fighting the battle? And this is what gets me. Do we fight a political battle more than we fight a spiritual battle?
Well, I think you and I both know it's a spiritual battle.
Yeah,
Okay, but the world at large does not know that.
that's right.
They're living in a material world,
That's right.
and they're living according to the prince of the power of the air,
Yeah,
and the chief deceiver,
yeah,
and it's and you and I see that in our position,
yeah.
but we can't make others see it.
No, you can't. But you know, here's what gets me is that you think some of these presidential candidates that's coming up, and I know this is completely off topic. We're going to talk about this in a minute since we got into it. We
just
walked
jumped
into
right
it.
in,
That's
didn't we?
fine. So I think one of the big things this time that you're going to hear on the stage from the presidential candidates is a person's ability to work on both sides of the fence. All right,
But
so
we hear that all the time.
I know we hear it all the time, and
I
it
know.
never happens,
Yeah.
or anything like that. So think about this: if you're in that position, where do you start? Where is that common ground?
yeah.
Where is common ground? Okay, so we have racial division in our country today, and there's no question about that. We have sexuality divisions in our country. There's no question about that. But if you are a candidate for president, where do you start? If you're going to stand up on stage and say, I can bring both sides together, where does that start?
I think those divisions are amplified greatly from what they really, really are.
You know, that's probably the truth, and I want to get into that a lot next week because
Yeah.
it all has to do with our perspective. All right, you know, I mean, it's easy to have a small town perspective. We live in a small town.
I have a Mayberry mentality. I
Yeah,
want you to know
exactly.
that, you know.
And I do too sometimes. And it's easy to sit in Lawrenceburg, Tennessee,
Yeah.
and say, here's what we need to do about this situation,
Right.
because we see it only on our level. And I'll give you an example, and this is a horrible expression, but I've heard people say, well, they ought to load all those aliens up, illegal aliens up, and just bus them back across the border. Okay, you can say that in Lawrenceburg, Tennessee, because when you're here, because it's not of the scale that you can comprehend.
Right.
But you can't walk outside of Lawrenceburg. You can't even walk into Nashville and say that, because it is undoable. It is beyond human, I guess, intervention.
Yeah.
So, it's easy to have a small town society and make those types of statements, but you don't really know the scale. And we only get the perspective that we see on TV or the social media that we're seeing.
Sure.
I think Elon Musk has proven that over the last couple of years when he took over Twitter. To me, he has proven to the world that, hey, some of the things that you watched and you believed in were false.
Yeah,
they
absolutely,
were not true.
false.
They were put there to lead you in a certain way. So getting back to the presidential candidate, where do you start? If I'm a presidential candidate, and I'm standing up there and say, look, I have the answer how we can fix this racial divide in our country. I have the answer that how we can fix this divide in our country that's divided among the sexes or anything like that. To me, the common ground is our faith. We're all made in the image of God. And it's just like this 18-year-old girl said today, or I read today in her speech, that we're all made in the image of God. There's our common ground. Why don't we start where our faith is, at the very foundations of our faith, and rebuild from there? In my mind, what a great society we would have that we wouldn't be bound by racial barriers. We wouldn't be bound by these things. You're not going to hear that.
No.
You're not going to hear it. But
No.
I'm just saying, no man or woman that's running for president is going to promise that and come through with it apart from Christ. That's not going to happen. And so you can just, if you're listening, I don't even think that's a statement that.
Say that again.
So I don't think that any man or woman that's running for president of the United States is going to make the statement that they can fix the problems, the problems that we see in America, especially the social problems, the problems between race, the problems between the sexes. They're not going to do that apart from Christ, because I believe you got to start at the foundation. There's one thing that you and I have in common, and the one thing that we have in common is we're made in God's image. And I believe that in every single human being, I don't care how bad you are, I don't care what you've done in your life, I don't care if you think that you've gone too far. You've not gone too far. The blood of Christ covers everything, everything that's ever been done, and it's the one thing that sets us all back on the same ground. And so, to me, I just don't think that we're striving for the right thing. We're striving for some type of social fix, and really, it's a spiritual fix.
Yeah, bless their hearts. Our officials are always thinking that some kind of program is the answer.
Right.
And it's not a program.
You're exactly right. And listen, Ted Kaczynski says this. We hope that the stresses through which the system is likely to pass will cause it to break down, or at least will weaken it sufficiently so that a revolution against it becomes possible. If such a revolution occurs and is successful, then at that particular moment, the aspiration for freedom will have proved more powerful than technology. So what, in my mind, and what I read into this, is we don't need a revolution more than we would need a revival. And so I just think if we had a revival in this country, it would fix a lot of problems that we have. Yeah. And Jeff, I struggle with these social issues of the day. I really do. I really struggle with the social issues today.
Me too. I do.
Because
I think a lot of us that think like we think really struggle with them.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, it's just that we got this election coming up, and I just hope that somebody's faith shines through. And if it does, they've got my vote. Right now, I'm undecided. I'm conservative, but yet I'm undecided. And the candidate that gets my vote is the candidate that stands firm on their faith.
Well,
and so,
and that's a good place to be.
Yeah, because I'm going to tell you, you can't waver in your faith and be on both sides of the social fences these days.
You cannot.
You cannot do it.
There was a meme that a buddy of mine sent out on Facebook, and I mentioned it earlier this morning, but it was basically it said people don't realize that the right wing and the left wing are on the same bird. Did you see that?
No, I haven't. That's good.
The right wing and the left wing are actually on the same bird. But my response to that was, that is true, but one of those wings is always acting stupid.
Yeah. Well, when you got a limp wing, you're flying in circles.
Now you can pick whichever wing you want to pick.
Exactly.
But that was my response to that anyway. I thought that was funny.
Oh, mate.
Good stuff.
Well, next week I've got some more.
Yeah,
things
what are we going to talk about
about
next week? We got we got another 5 minutes.
You got 5 minutes?
Yeah,
okay, so we can
right.
lead all the way up to the.
You're all right.
Okay, so good deal. Let me bring this next page up right here. And, I was already on that page. Let me bring the other page up.
And by the way, the phone line's open, 766-9393 if you want to talk to Keith.
Yeah, we don't even know if anybody's even listening
Yeah,
to
we
us.
don't.
So.
Hopefully they are.
Yeah, I hope so.
We had a call or two yesterday with
Okay.
while we were on with Ricky.
Yeah, with Ricky.
And I hadn't even thought about giving the phone number out. I got so engrossed in our conversation.
So we'll get into this, and this will lead us into next week's conversation too. So this is on further down, and this is what Ted is saying about society, and it just matches up with what we're doing today. And he's talking about the control of human behavior. All right, so think about this. Elon Musk, and we've seen the things on Facebook. They are at one time Twitter and Facebook and things like that were trying to control human behavior. All right, and there's no question about that. It's not up for debate. That's exactly what was going on. So as Ted's writing this paper back in the 90s, he's saying you better watch out because technology is going to get to a point where it can control human behavior. And I'm not even going to read this, but I'm going to talk about something. And I think that's 100% correct. And I can give you some examples of this from my own life. Okay, so we see on the news these stories about these statues being torn down, all around the country. Maybe it's a statue of Nathan Bedford Forrest or whatever, things like that.
Right.
You know what? That's okay. When you, in the scheme of things, that's nothing. As far as, if they want to tear the statue down, that's fine. That's in the scheme of things, because when you think about the United States, there's 300 million people in the United States, or a little bit more, and how many people go by and see that statue? Rarely. Just as a population.
The sadder thing is how many do not even know who those people are. Exactly.
And but what I want to say is this: is that if we're into getting rid of those things that have misled us and lead us in society. Listen, Hollywood is number one. I think you got to tear down the Hollywood sign. So you heard it first right here on WDXE.
You heard it first.
If you want to get rid of racism in America, it's got to start at Hollywood. Because think of this, Jeff. How many times have you been to New York?
I've been a couple.
Been a couple times. So the first time you went, was you excited to go?
Yeah.
Okay, so you was. I was not. And I wasn't excited to go because the only New York I ever saw was on TV. Yeah. And it was dangerous. Yeah. But I'm telling you, Jeff, and this goes along with what you said earlier, that maybe it's skewed by the things that we see. And the only New York I'd ever seen was a dangerous place. And so for a long time, I thought, well, I don't want to go to New York. There's nothing but up there robbers and thieves and muggers and stuff. And you know what? It's totally different. That New York's a beautiful place. Architecture is unbelievable. It's just a great, and they got great pizza.
But I feel differently about it now.
You feel differently about it now, but what if you were to go up there today and find out that, hey, it's still the same old New York?
Yeah.
Because we're being told by the media.
It's the influence.
It is. And I know we got a couple minutes. I want to expand on this a little bit next week, but also think about this. If I were to say, okay, I want you to draw me a picture of a gangster, what picture would you draw? Well, you know what? I've never seen a gangster. The only gangsters I've seen are on TV. You know what? Right. They're black guys with their pants halfway off their butt and things like that. That is the picture that Hollywood has painted to me and said, okay, this portion of society is bad. Same way, they painted American Indians as bad from day one. Right. In fact, I saw a movie the other day that had Elvis in it, and Elvis was half Indian, and I forgot the name of the movie, but he was a half Indian in that movie. Yeah. And one of the guys says you can't trust them, and so
go ahead.
So anyway, what I'm saying is Hollywood has shaped not just America but the world's opinion of classes of people, and especially when it comes to people of color and of people of minorities, I should say.
Right.
Okay. So we'll wind
We
this
gotta-
up. Listen,
we gotta
we'll pick
wind
it up
it
next
up.
week because I'm going to get on a soapbox on that.
I can't wait.
I've been holding that in for a long
can't
time.
wait.
But if you want to tear down any sign in America, tear down the Hollywood sign and let's start afresh.
You've been listening here with Keith Durham, and we're live on Facebook and YouTube. But we're hitting a hard break at 9 o'clock.
At 9 o'clock?
At 9 o'clock, and the Fox News break's coming up. But Keith, thanks for being in with us.
Hey,
buddy.
I'm glad to be here today.
Again, brought to you by
This
Heritage
is
Automotive.
WDXE, W287
There goes that station
and
ID.
W237.
So thank you, Keith.
Yes, sir. See you next week.
Broadcast services of Prospect Communications.
It's still missing, but can they still breathe? I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. The Coast Guard estimates the submersible missing on a tour of the Titanic shipwreck may have already run out.